The golden chandelier flickered over the long mahogany dining table, its light glinting off crystal glasses and polished silverware, yet no warmth reached the boy sitting at the far end. Jackson Harper, the 10-year-old son of one of the wealthiest CEOs in New York, stared blankly at his untouched plate, tears glistening in his big blue eyes. His small hands fidgeted with the edge of his napkin, trembling as he tried to swallow the lump in his throat. His father, Robert Harper, a man whose sharp suits and sharper business mind commanded boardrooms across the nation, glanced at him with irritation rather than concern. The room was perfect in every conceivable way, pristine walls adorned with contemporary art, servants quietly attending to the family, the finest dinner meticulously prepared. But perfection did not fill the empty space in Jackson's heart. He had spent countless nights alone, wandering the expansive halls of their Manhattan penthouse, the silence echoing louder than any conversation. The boy had a yearning that money could never buy, a yearning for family, for connection, for someone who would understand him without judgment or expectation. Tonight was no different. The disappointment of another birthday dinner without a sibling pressed on him like a weight too heavy for a child to bear. He had asked for a sister, for a companion, for someone to share his secret jokes and midnight adventures. But Robert Harper dismissed it with a curt laugh. Business waits, Jackson. Family, we will see. As Jackson's shoulders shook with quiet sobs, a soft voice interrupted the tension. Across the table, a little girl, no older than 7, stood near the doorway, her curly auburn hair framing a freckled face filled with an innocence that seemed untouched by wealth or pretense. She wore a simple floral dress, the kind that felt like sunlight on skin, and her wide green eyes were fixed on Jackson. She stepped forward, clutching a small, worn stuffed bunny to her chest. Without a hint of hesitation, she whispered, so quietly only Jackson could hear, "He only needs a sister." The words hung in the air, simple yet transformative. Jackson froze, his tears catching the chandelier light, and looked up at the girl. There was no judgment, no mockery, only the clarity of a child's heart stating what Jackson had always longed to hear. In that instant, a fragile hope sparked in him, small but undeniable, like the first flame flickering in a long-abandoned fireplace. If this story is touching your heart already, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel, especially if you believe in kindness and second chances. The girl introduced herself as Grace, the daughter of the Harper's longtime housekeeper, someone Jackson had seen in passing but never truly noticed. Unlike the polished world he was born into, Grace's world was one of simplicity, of warmth, of laughter that didn't hide behind tailored smiles. She didn't know Jackson's loneliness in depth, yet somehow, she understood it better than anyone in his own family ever had. She sat beside him, placing her small hand over his trembling one. "You don't need to cry alone," she said softly. That night, Jackson realized that connection was possible, that his heart could reach out and touch another even in the world of endless wealth and silent expectations. Days passed, and the presence of Grace began to weave a gentle magic through Jackson's life. She didn't care about the towering skyline beyond the Harper penthouse, nor the luxuries he had never asked for. They spent afternoons building makeshift forts in the expansive living room, inventing stories of faraway lands, and sharing secrets that felt heavier than the gold around them. Jackson laughed again, a sound that had been buried beneath years of pressure and loneliness. His parents noticed the change, though they couldn't understand it at first. Robert Harper, the man who measured life in numbers and profits, found himself quietly observing his son with a new curiosity, a realization dawning that wealth was meaningless without emotional presence. Yet, life was never simple, even in moments of joy. Jackson's mother, Margaret Harper, struggled silently with her own regrets. She had focused on philanthropy, society events, and the image of a perfect family, often overlooking her son's quiet pleas for companionship. Watching Jackson and Grace play, she felt a pang of guilt and an unfamiliar urgency. What if these fleeting moments slipped away, leaving Jackson with nothing but memories of what could have been? One rainy afternoon, as the wind rattled the windows, Jackson confided in Grace about his deepest fear, that he would always be alone, that the love he craved would remain just beyond reach. Grace, with her natural wisdom, whispered back, "Sometimes the heart knows what it needs before the world does." Maybe all you need is a sister, someone to share everything with, and maybe that sister is coming soon. It wasn't magic, not at first. It was persistence, subtle and patient. Robert Harper, seeing the depth of his son's yearning, began to consider a reality he had never imagined. For years, he had dismissed adoption, thinking it would disrupt the precision of his life. But watching Jackson's joy blossom with Grace by his side, he realized that some things, love, family, connection, were more important than control or image. And so, after careful thought and sleepless nights, he and Margaret began the process, guided by hope and the quiet urging of a little girl who understood a boy's heart better than anyone else. Months later, on a spring morning filled with sunlight and birdsong, Jackson met his new sister, a baby with bright eyes and a smile that instantly mirrored his own. He held her small hands, and in that moment, the walls of the Harper penthouse didn't seem cold or empty anymore. Grace sat beside him, her hand resting gently on Jackson's shoulder, a silent acknowledgement of the role she had played in making his heart whole. Tears fell freely from Jackson's eyes, but this time they were not of sorrow. They were of joy, of love, of a hope realized. The Harper's home transformed, not through wealth or luxury, but through the simple, undeniable power of family. Jackson learned that life wasn't measured in boardroom victories or inherited riches, but in moments of connection, laughter, and shared hearts. And Grace, the little girl who had whispered a truth simple yet profound, remained a permanent fixture in his life, a reminder that even the smallest voice can change the course of a life forever. If this story touched your heart, please engage with it, like, comment, and share to spread the hope and love within. Don't forget to write in the comments what small act of kindness has ever changed your life, just like Grace changed Jackson's. In the end, the boy who once cried alone at a perfect dinner learned the most profound lesson of all. Family is not only born, it is made through courage, compassion, and the quiet, unexpected guidance of those who see our hearts. Jackson Harper's tears that night were not just for what he lacked. They were the beginning of a journey into a life overflowing with love, laughter, and the sister he had always needed.